Um, my name is Hector Bastilos. I am the marketing and management event manager manager for LGBT Grade. Today I'm here with Shreyas, my coworker, and then we'll be talking about 5 ways to attract Gen Z. So we have curated just a few of our internal and personal experiences, as well as some research that we have gathered on some recruitment practices on how to attract, the youngest generation to companies. So I'm just gonna start. So once again, Hector, and then Shreyas, would you mind introducing yourself?
Thank you so much, Hector, and welcome everyone. I'm Shreyas Datta. I just realized I do not, because of Zoom, they always forget to put my pronouns in. I'm just going to do that quickly. But yeah, I am Shreyas Datta. I am the Insights and Content Analyst at LGBT Great. And yeah, so my work revolves around data, research, training, insights, and my academic background actually lies in socioeconomic research. I did like a bachelor's in economics, master's in international relations, and now I've kind of sort of moved into the LGBTQ plus research space, and that's what I do at the company. Hopefully, that's quite clear.
Perfect. So today we're going to be diving on a few things when it comes to attracting Gen Z talent. I just want to share with you kind of the agenda. So the introduction, check, we've done that. So we're going to use 5 problems or 5 aspects that Gen Z values when they're looking to get involved with a company or, become an employee for a company, as well as some of the solutions attached to those problems. These are from our internal insights as well as some external research that we have done, and then we'll provide some good examples of some companies that have, in our eyes, done the best to solve all of these problems. So if you guys are not familiar with us, we're LGBT Grade. We're an LGBTQ plus D&I consulting firm based in London. We focus on empowering people through training and insights, and that's primarily in the realm of LGBTQ plus and D&I. We are a membership-based business, and we help businesses become more inclusive and diverse. We also do a lot of advisory, and we are involved in LGBTQ plus recruiting as well. So let us give you a little bit of context of the target demographic that we are talking about. So that's Gen Z. And Shreyas as a Gen Z and me as a millennial, we can provide some, like the inside scoop of what are we looking for when it comes to the next employer.
Thank you, Hector. I was just a housekeeping rule I forgot to mention before, that you can please feel free to drop any questions as we go through, and we'll try to answer them at the end. If we have enough time, hopefully we will. I have promised myself I'll be better at time management. So anyway, yeah, thank you, Hector. Yeah, so I am from Generation Z, and I think the first thing I always mention is that the fact it's not a monolith of how we exist. Okay, maybe a lot of people have said that we are recalcitrant in our being, and I sometimes agree, sometimes disagree. But yeah, we might be we are the youngest generation to hit the workforce, and I also believe that we are the most value-driven generation. And it's not just my own anecdotal truth, but also like a lot of studies have shown this. And we'll talk about more statistics and data later, of course. And I mean, how I perceive Gen Z in terms of like value driven, for example, we talk about climate change, we talk about equality. There's a lot of statistics saying that, oh, yes, people are like, this is more people centered, it is less profit centered, it is again more about equality, equity, more than just like the traditional kind of traditional demeanor of how people used to work in the workforce. But again, this is not exhaustive or pedantic. I am representing myself more than, and sometimes I feel like I am more of like a boomer in some ways and form. A good example right now would be, for example, I write all my notes on a notebook, which is just, I guess, not very Gen Z-ish because we're very technologically oriented, but still, I feel like it's something that I really love. But people might say it's not something that Gen Z generally does. They're more on TikTok, they're more on social media, and they try to take notes on all like digital platforms. With me, for example, I love writing stuff down. but yeah, that's like kind of like my take. And of course, we're gonna discuss some macro trends and statistics around how um Gen Z like actually approaches the workforce and how Gen Z can be attracted to your potential company. Um, and yeah, I hope like you'll take some tips and tricks away to get my generation more into your workforce. Yeah, back to you, Hector.
Yeah, so
Hector, I think you're muted. Just letting you know.
oopsie daisy. Even though this webinar focuses on Gen Z, we will also be touching, the generation of late millennials and millennials, as well as some of these aspects um, touch on them as well. So let's go on our next slide. So these are pretty much some of the aspects that Gen Z and late millennials do consider and value when looking for a company that they want to get involved with or work with. I'm just gonna just tell them first is company culture, there's communication, benefits, career development, and recruitment strategies. Some of these concepts are what Gen Z are looking for within any industry. It doesn't matter whether you are a small business or a large corporation. These are some of the values that you either have to have internally on your company or showcase externally through a company's website or through their marketing. So kind of let's get started with the first one. So Shreyas?
Thank you, Hector. Yeah, so the first one is company culture. So how I want to tackle the information here is, of course, people can read the statistics, but I also like to incorporate some of my personal experience into this. But of course, you can see, for example, Gen Z, and as I started with, like, value-driven propositions are very important to Gen Z. You can see like diversity, inclusion, social responsibilities are some of the main facets that Gen Z focuses on when they think of good company culture. And I mean, a Pew Research study recently showed that 62% of Gen Zers see increased diversity as good for society, and 80% of Gen Zers said it's important for brands to address diversity and inclusion. So like we see this rhetoric of, oh, we want more equality, we want more justice. And another, like, for example, study done by Monster says that 83% of Gen Z candidates say that a company's commitment to D&I is important when choosing an employer. So like it keeps reiterating itself through studies, and I think it's almost an objective truth now that that's how we perceive good company culture. And there's another new research that we're going to launch soon around recruiting trends, and I'm going to give you some sneak peeks of it as we go through this presentation. And one of them is that 50%, 1 in 2 Gen Z respondents, and this is not Gen Z LGBTQ plus respondents, this is Gen Z respondents, also said that they would be more inclined to apply to an organization that had been assessed for LGBTQ plus sensitivity, which just shows that even if you're not LGBTQ plus, you still think that you almost have like an empathy driven sort of like ethical I don't know how to describe it personally, but like I personally feel very attached to the fact that I want everyone to be equal intersectionally, not just my own identity. And I feel like I've been in places where that has not been the case. I worked in some companies in India, and I've never felt myself, again, never been really happy working there. And I've also, like, very recently in London, actually, I was wearing a very I would say very femme, but still like Indian traditional clothing. And I, like, someone looked me up and down. They were like, do they belong here? And I feel like these things are like, and I was in a company I will not name, but these things are very like covert kind of microaggressions, which you don't want in your company culture. And these are problems that I personally think are very important to address. And Hector will help you address them.
Okay, so how do we create? How can a company create and showcase, a DA&I positive company culture? So I'm going to talk about like the internal aspects as well as external aspects that companies can implement. So I'm going to start internally. I think as some of you might be here, we're all about DA&I programs. Companies that haven't done so, they need to start implementing programs that focuses on the inclusion of different groups and minorities within their company. I think sometimes it's easy for us to overlook the importance of addressing certain issues and problems that only affect certain people. So, Gen Z is very aware about, they really care about, the social impact that a company might have, about the social responsibility that they might have. So if a company shows initiative on involving or creating an inclusive environment, they are most likely to be attracted to that company. Externally, I would recommend companies to have it on their about page, to showcase some of their values as well as mission when it comes to DE&I. I feel like sometimes companies don't have the budget or the time to quickly update a section on their website that says these are the values, how we care. And some of them have very outdated, like these are like our company mission, like we care about respect. But how do you show respect? How do you social proof it? You would need to do that through social proof. Create have photos of the people that work in there. Have activities that involve not only just a specific group of people, but of different variety as well. I mean, I'm gonna say, if your company doesn't have like an employee resource group, those are great tools to have within a company because it creates a community, it creates a sense of belonging, with employees and affiliated members. People want to be involved. That people want to be involved with people that share the same beliefs or um, um, sense of purpose. So if your company hasn't done that, I would highly recommend. It doesn't have to be necessarily oriented of what the company does. Like employee resource group kind of just help to start a conversation amongst your colleagues. I think the other way of company culture would be like transparency, and this kind of comes to like internally and externally. When you are looking through a company's website and you do not see maybe some of the values or some of the mission that the company strives to, I think Gen Z is very quick to Google it up, research, and be like, this company is not or stands for what I believe is important. So it takes 3 seconds for you to update your website, alter your social media, be like, this is why we care, so you better do it because they will notice. And then for the second problem that we have here would be Shreyas.
Thank you. No, and also just adding to like what you said, I was just thinking about it. And I feel like there's like another thing that companies sometimes fail to do is have like a sense check, like employee survey to understand how the company is feeling, like the employees are feeling, because always having a very robust metric to understand what the employee sentiment is I think a very crucial factor to actually evaluate your company culture and then progress that company culture to a better standard. And I also like this is small ramble, but I was looking at this Deloitte report as well, and it was like 75% Gen Z believe that the world is at a tipping point in terms of climate emergency, but only 14% thought that the firm was like the firm they were employed by was doing good work to actually basically ameliorate that emergency, which is interesting to me, which is in a laconic sense almost. So it's saying that they don't really believe in the corporate social responsibility that their companies are pursuing. So I think there's a lot to do there, and I hopefully like companies can understand that and try to invest in their CSR departments. Anyway, moving on to the second problem. Thank you, Hector. I'm sorry if I rambled a bit. Um, but yeah, okay, this is an interesting one. Email heavy communication is generally communication has evolved so much over the years, right? So I mean, technology has changed. I mean, people like my friends were telling me they send emails through AI now, like and I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. I am a bit behind, but I'm gonna try and do that too. But yeah, so if you see some statistics there, 61% prefer short videos under 1 minute long, 60% think digital first impressions are more important than real ones. So I mean, that's such a like interesting fact, because you're telling me that, for example, your website might have a bigger and more like robust digital first impression than when you actually meet that candidate. For example, if you're attracting them or like if you're actually trying to get them as a potential employee. 83% of Gen Z shops on social media. Okay, I have to come clean. I am so bad at social media. And like Hector, I and Alex have this joke where they are like, "Oh, have you seen this TikTok trend?" And I'm like, "I'm actually not on TikTok." And they're like, you're failing your generation." And I'm like, "What?" But I'm so again, it's not a monolith, but we see a lot of social media usage. And I feel like companies need to evolve with technological development in terms of their communication. And of course, I feel inclusive communication as well is very important. Having pronouns, having just very small indicators of how you're very inclusive and equal, and like have a culture of belonging and inclusion is very important to attract such Gen Z folks. But yeah, for solutions, it's always Hector, I'm telling you.
Okay, so I think I'm going to touch back on the how to communicate with Gen Z internally within a company as well as externally. I think if you're a company and want to speak to a Gen Z or younger generation, you have to really understand how do they communicate, what do they communicate, and most companies are using LinkedIn, to find talent, to find the next person, but Gen Z and late millennials do prefer, to use TikTok, to use Instagram as a way of communicating between like an entity, as a person and then a company. You know, I'm not saying that you need to do the latest trends and start dancing away on your TikTok to attract talent, but I think going back to the social proof, make videos about, what is it like to be in, so what does it mean to work in the office, show videos, show something that is organic and natural, something that has the human touch. The like Gen Z are just so quickly to pick up those those traits, and that's how you are able to communicate through them externally. You don't need to be the best company, but or even have a big click-through rate on all the videos that you put. It's only there just for evidence for people to scroll through. And sorry, that was just my bit on externally, but in like internally, I feel like the older generations, especially when it comes to legacy industries, they are more heavily on emails, very like formal conversations on the phone. The younger generations grew up with, instant messaging as well as direct communication, so there has to be an evolution on the way we communicate with each other. And that's with Gen Z, gotta make sure that the communication is clear, concise, because us, sometimes we lose direction and then we get distracted. I think the younger generations appreciate, quicker channels. If you're not using Teams or Slack, or other companies are a lot more nouveau and do like Messenger, but no judgment there. Another one that I would be in communication when it comes to talking to Gen Z internally, Gen Z, millennials, they love feedback, constructive criticism. I feel like I can speak to myself. We are not afraid of owning to our mistakes, and can you provide clear feedback so that we understand what the next steps are. And I feel like sometimes maybe an older generation might have a little bit trouble sharing how they truly feel about a certain approach or issue. I feel like it's better to always have it clear without it's not personal, it's just business. I feel like that's something that I think Gen Z and millennials, speaking from experience, do value. And then the third point and the third problem that we value is Shreyas.
Thank you, Hector. And when you were saying that, I was thinking about like the short-term formats, like short formats. I like this, call it my ADHD, I'm not sure, but I cannot focus more than 20 seconds now on like Instagram or whatever. And I feel like that's a very bad quality, but I guess everyone in my circle feels the same. Like it's almost hard to like concentrate, especially when you're going through so much content because there's an oversaturation of content. So again, short, as you said, short, very specific, landing a message, concise, succinct, absolutely appeal to me. Yeah, benefits and perks. And I like while we were making this slide, I'll be honest, I was thinking about how like our generation is basically the generation that hit the workforce during the pandemic, roughly. So 2018, 19-ish to 20 now, 24 is when like we started working. So most of our experiences have actually been hybrid working / flexible working. And I feel like that is a very important fact, at least for me, and anecdotally true as well. But like it's a very important factor to like reduce stress and burnout. So for example, you can see a Gallup report said that 68% of Gen Z and younger millennials report feeling stressed a lot of the time. Well, I'm one of those 68%. I just have to tell you all. And 42% of Gen Z workers value work-life balance, remote working, and flexible leave as their top priorities when looking for a job. And these are very, I mean, I feel like with, of course, and technological evolution, these are very things that you can have very easily. And I feel like it reduces the burden that you have, for example, cost-wise, like time-wise, because you don't have to travel to work. That means you save time, save costs, and these things matter to us, especially as people who are just hitting the workforce. And obviously, the economic sense right now, like the macro economy of the world, is not doing well. So these things matter. Um, and I believe that benefits and perks are so important. When I see like a, and this is obviously from an LGBTQ plus perspective, of course, but when there's like, for example, transitioning policy, medical transition policies, benefits, perks that are included in such packages, that's very important to me because I mean, I may not be transitioning, but I feel like that is a very important benefit to have for everyone. And yeah, like I think I'm going off about a bit of solutions, which I think the solution aspect will be given by Hector much in much better detail.
Oh yes. Oh no, no. We got plenty of solutions for that. So once again, I think when you are marketing externally your company, it would be important to, we have all lived through COVID, we already know the benefits of, hybrid working. We have seen plenty of time, you're on TikTok, we have CEOs expressing their interest of everyone returning back to the office. You're more productive. You're like from like Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, because they want to see you do the work. I feel like the younger generation and millennials, and I'm going to say some boomers, really appreciate to have the hybrid system, a way of working where you have the ability to not only, do your work maybe at home or in the office, but also, have the ability to socialize. I feel like when you are either one or the other on one extreme, you tend to, have troubles. Hence, people now, in terms of benefits, I'm thinking about it, they really appreciate to have the hybrid, like working culture. I think personally speaking, coming to the office is for social gathering to get that social energy from everyone. And if your company is not reflecting that on job postings, on your about page, on their career page, you would be detracting, a huge gap of talent, and that would vary personally. Of course, not everyone can work remotely, not everyone can work hybrid. So I think, companies would be good to offer, those options to their employees as well as, upcoming talent. Other perks and benefits that I believe are very important for Gen Z is like mental health support. Gen Z is not afraid to let you know that there's a problem, whether externally or personally. So therefore they appreciate programs or internal programs that, help you navigate your internal struggles, or externally, that would be, you know, either through talking groups, therapists, time away, remote from home. Those are some of the perks that really do tend to shine a light. Of course, you have to see it both ways. Not everyone can claim sick leave or things like that. So there's a way to find, a happy medium. And the third point that you see here is that customized benefits. I feel like, big companies like to buy in bulk, so everyone will get the same benefits. Um, um, Tech companies or fintech companies are more likely to have more like flexible, customized benefits that they would give three different packages. This is what I know that three might not cover everyone, but at least it gives a lot more option for employees or upcoming employees to choose from. For example, if you are neurodivergent, if you have a disability, if you're a working mother, there should be benefits that should address those as well, and you should work, with you. And, externally, once again, this is all when it comes to marketing your company pretty well. Don't be afraid of showing that on your about page and careers. People want to see, people want to learn. I would like to see that if I'm working for a company, what type of benefits am I going to see, and honestly, sometimes it would be like there's no budget for us to do that. What is our perception? They may think they're how we're cheap if we don't have them. Gen Z will know and they will research a company like from end to end. So might as well save the time, put it out there. I think it would increase the sense of transparency when it comes to, work benefits, and, it's greatly appreciated as well, and let's be honest, everyone can go to Glassdoor and look about the company culture and the perks. So might as well. Okay, so next time. Sorry, next slide. So the fourth problem.
Yeah, thank you, Hector. And actually, while you were saying that, I was thinking what benefit I like the most. And I would love, for example, a day to have like basically paid volunteer day, because I feel like I want to do better for the community. Thankfully, I already work in the D&I space, so I believe at least ethically that I'm doing something good. But and I think that's actually a perfect segue, because I was thinking about what my career looks like and what I want to do in my future. And I think there's two intrinsic factors, and they're very much intertwined sometimes. But there's obviously this ethical responsibility that whatever I do in my life, in my career, has to produce some good for the world. And secondly, I believe that I also want to improve with it. I sometimes feel like you can work very stagnantly sometimes in some jobs, but you personally don't grow. And I feel like that's something I would hate. And I feel like a lot of the statistics actually corroborate my point, where, for example, 76% see learning is the key to their advancement. Gen Z respondents expressed a desire for more opportunities to move up or increase responsibilities and more opportunities to learn or practice new skills. And I feel like that's very important to me as well. And it's always good to see your own thought reflected in data. But one very interesting thing, and I think that's how I would like to highlight this problem, is that when you see that, for example, Gen Z is relying on social media to develop skills rather than employers, with this generation more likely to turn to YouTube, which I think it's pretty good, LinkedIn, or even TikTok for their skills training. But I think it's interesting because I feel like I want to work for an employer which can give me all that without me needing to go to social media platforms. Especially with TikTok, I believe there is obviously information, but there's also a lot of misinformation, which Gen Z is prone to, I will admit. So yeah, having like these kind of specified programs that actually help you improve yourself and your career and your like achieve your career goals are very, very important. And yeah, Hector will suggest some ways of how we can do that.
All right. So these are so how can companies, showcase career development for Gen Z? So, I think, I can tackle some very important points. Gen Z millennials, they love a good learning session. If I'm doing something, I personally have really appreciated when I have a learning development section attached to my job. It's like if I'm in marketing, I would like to improve myself on how to do ads, how to do analytics. And that comes with, um, career CPD, courses. I feel like, it doesn't cost for companies much to, subscribe to Coursera or subscribe to like to Skillshare. I feel like those are easily and very affordable resources that company can use to not only improve their workforce skills, but themselves. I feel like it's something that is often overlooked, and companies feel like they need to hire a professional or like a consultant or like a speaker for them to, to learn something. But honestly, like a Coursera skill, like online would be, maybe a few dollars if you're an individual. And to be fair, not every employee might want to take advantage of these resources. So something to keep in mind. Another thing that I would recommend companies to implement would be mentorship programs. If you have senior staff or high level position people, and to really plant the seed in helping other, newer interns, new hires, because the people that want to join a company want to really know the ways of a company. How do they work? How do I become to the next level? Having someone to guide you through that would really, really help. In our from our experience from our mentorship program, we have seen amazing results of people going back and forward between someone very senior and someone very junior. They have learned so much from people that have been in the industry for many years. And it doesn't take much to not only help yourself personally grow, but also help others. So companies take notes. Another one that I think would be great is like companies, I feel like they struggle, especially smaller companies have like a clear growth plan when it comes to certain positions. This is just going to be your position, but they don't provide the growth opportunities within the next few months or the next few years. I think Gen Z and millennials really appreciate it's like, I start here. What is my next goal within 6 years to a year and 5 years? Like give me the metrics, give me the goals. This is how we're going to learn. If you achieve this, you're going to obtain this. And I feel like it would be good to have as well. I'm talking about internally as well as, when you put a job out there, like this position has potential for growth. And then you might just want to drop, the next title advancement, because to be honest, titles are just titles, but it does boost up the self-esteem. um, and those are pretty much my comments for now. And then I'll go back to the last problem that we have.
Thank you, Hector. And I was also I was thinking that we are actually CPD accredited in every training session that we have, LGBTQ plus D&I training sessions accredited, and which basically essentially what it means is that an independent body has come in, seen our content, and been like, you know what, this is amazing. So, well, please do sign up for some of our trainings. And okay, the last problem, recruitment strategies. This is like my personal, I'm having like a great fun time around like recruitment strategies right now because I'm analyzing a lot of data right now, and that's one of my favorite parts generally. So some statistics from this upcoming report that we have around recruiting. And the first statistic that really stuck with me was like 48% Gen Z respondents. Again, this is not Gen Z LGBTQ plus respondents. This is Gen Z respondents would be more comfortable in the hiring process if the hiring panel had been formally trained on D&I. I feel like that's a very big factor that people like, or corporations in this case, miss, that formal training on D&I, especially for like recruiters and hirers, is very important. And I mean, I personally, speaking from my own lens, sometimes there have been times where people have been like, oh, what does they mean? And I'm like, oh no, here we go again. I have to explain this. They're like, why do you have pronouns? And I'm like, oh, that's a bad red flag, probably in Gen Z vernacular. The second one is more than 1 in 2 Gen Z respondents also said that seeing visible LGBTQ plus content / testimonials would positively influence their decision to apply to an organization. So obviously, and I feel like this is again Gen Z, not LGBTQ plus Gen Z, only Gen Z. But LGBTQ plus testimonials also kind of indicate that there is a culture of equality and equity, because of course LGBTQ people are disproportionately marginalized across companies in the world generally, sociologically, in every way and form. So I feel like that just showcases how equity in every way and form is very important to Gen Z, and I personally believe that with every like strand in my hair. But these 2 points I think were very important in terms of like the recruiting report that we're gonna soon launch, and we also have we'll talk about in a bit. But yeah, like this is the problem, of course, the recruitment strategies currently don't have D&I trained hires or digital testimonials or any sort for me, for example, to know this company is somewhere I would love to work at. And Hector will provide some solutions to that.
I mean, to touch on that point about, testimonials and, proof, I think I'm a big advocate for companies to use the concept of social proof. The magic of, your website and your social medias is that you are there and you're able to showcase, everything that you that you stand for. When you are looking to attract, the younger generation, you, once again, going back, you need to understand what they're interacting with. So that would be TikTok or Instagram, and sometimes I see companies being afraid to post, they're like day-to-day work, at in the office, the activities within it, because they feel like it's not professional, but let's say, for example, you are, the social media person in your company, and you want to, really showcase, the life of the employees. Don't be afraid. Social proof is not for a company to gather engagements or likes. It's for people to just scroll down your socials and see, okay, they're committed. I see what they're doing. They are there to showcase, the values that Gen Z want, which is equity, diversity, and inclusion. And and hopefully the points that we talked about can be encompassed through those socials. I'm going to go back to the aspect of being natural and organic, use a human touch. The younger generation really appreciates that when they are looking for a job. I feel like transparency, people will the younger generation, including myself, will go through a company's career page or social media. And if I see that their last post was a year ago and it was about a visibility date, I can understand it's not important for them. Like company culture doesn't mean that much, because there is this importance on consistency as well. If you want to attract people, there has to be consistency on the amount of proof that you need to put out there. And that's a strategy that you can take. You can use your workforce. Just take photos of your everyday life. It doesn't have to be filmed in a DSLR camera. It can be just with an iPhone. And then once again, all natural is good to go. Another point that you may see here is like targeted advertising. Use it wisely. Do not get scared by, oh, we need a big budget. Once again, targeted advertising, you can even target a region, you can even target a city, you can even target a small demographic. You don't have to spend a lot of money to attract most of them if it's within your budget to pay for advertising. Sometimes organic will do the work for you, but if you're in a rush, you can pay it. Sometimes you can even do it yourself as well if you do have the experience. But another one that I would like to do is, when an employee from your company is having such a good time to live with their work, word of mouth is also very important when attracting new talent. If my dad work at a company, he's having a blast, I'd be like, I want to work for a company like that. So, but this only applies when you have a great company culture, where your company is doing the best, when you see that the employees are happy, then that's when this recruitment strategy works very well, especially if you are a more like legacy company where people have worked there for a very long time. Lastly, but not least, is the D&I training. So HR or like recruiters, might sometimes have a hard time, connecting to the people that they're hiring, maybe because they don't really know exactly much about them or how to interact with them. So give them D&I training. If we have companies that are like, our aspirational goal is to hire, 26% of Latinos in Latin America. Maybe you might want to hire, someone that is Latino, or someone that knows about the culture, or knows how to address certain cultural programs, cultural costumes, things like that. I feel like people that are part of that recruitment process would really appreciate maybe someone that is related or similar to them. So, you don't have to be that culture to appreciate that culture, but it would also be helpful if companies put that out there as well. And I think our shameless plug would be our last one, which would be, also if you are looking for talent, and you want people to see how you care, you can always sign up for platforms that share those values or those responsibilities. Like if your company cares about LGBTQ plus visibility awareness, or related issues. We have LGBT careers, of course, this year's, we just want to talk about it just briefly. This is a platform that we have created, for companies to post jobs, to share their jobs, and to really be involved in the whole D&I LGBTQ plus spectrum of recruitment. So, if I was someone looking for a job and I see that a company is affiliated with an LGBTQ plus friendly recruitment platform, I'll be like, sign me up. They really care for the things that I look for, which is like inclusion, open-mindedness. So this is something to also really think about. And Shreyas, I think also Shreyas has something to say as well.
No, yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I wanted to say, and you, like, I couldn't have put it myself better myself. But yeah, LGBT great careers is, and like we have end-to-end talent solutions, and you can post jobs, and there have been like the employers have been assessed for LGBTQ plus sensitivity, and I believe again, if a company is doing very well in LGBTQ plus sensitivity, which many a time has like is shifted to the side of the desk, they're probably doing very well intersectionally as well. So I would say that even if you're not LGBTQ plus, or if you're like trying to attract just general Gen Z talent, it's a very great platform, and you should definitely check it out. And I also like I see there's a couple questions,
A
but
couple questions.
I just want to conclude in a very brief sense of like, I think we started off with the fact that this was like very values driven generation. And I want to end it with the fact that yes, we saw so many statistics that again go by like values, ethics. These are very important. This is like not some verisimilitude. This is actually based in reality. And I feel like again having that value, that company culture, recruitment strategy, which are basically equitable and doing better for the world, will help you attract Gen Z talent. And now we can move on to the questions. What do you think, Hector? Anything else you want to say before we move on?
No, but I will share with you some good examples that we have found that like of good companies that have evoked and implemented some of these points that we're talking about. Give me 1 second. So here are some great examples that I follow on LinkedIn because I do love a LinkedIn post that shares the activities of what companies do. So this is an example of Tinder and Revolut. So, I just want to maybe kind of give you an overview. Legacy industries, such as investment and banking, usually have an older demographic. They're more traditional, maybe a little more close-minded, a lot more slower to implement new strategies. With tech companies and like fintech or, they are just very good at attracting the younger generation because the people that are working there are most likely younger, right? So if you want to have some tips and tricks of how to use social proof effectively, I would recommend for you to check these ones out. So for example, on Tinder, they love to talk about, internal activities. You can see that this photo was organic, it's raw, people are happy. You look at it and you're like, I want to work there. They're having a lot of fun. It doesn't take much for you to go out for a pizza and take a couple of photos and, seem like you're having a great time. And those are sort of the things that companies need to start doing. They need to start, you know, um, not seeing social media as like, oh my gosh, no, we don't want to get canceled, or we don't want to share things that don't represent us. Sometimes with bigger corporations, there is like a long chain of approval, and they're heavily refined, they're heavily edited, the younger generation will see right through them. It's like, that's been edited, that's been, touched so much that it doesn't really speak to us. So once again, kind of like with these two examples, like, Revolut is also very good at talking about their early careers talent. They always like to showcase, they have videos about their interns on their first day, really talking and engaging with like senior levels of their company. Very amazing. But anyways, I'm gonna stop right there, and I would recommend for you to really look at them. I'm gonna touch on a very quick point on some of the questions that we had, and this touches the question that I see here is someone asked, do you think DNI training should be mandatory or optional? I feel like, I mean, um, the future generation is here and they're screaming for it. It would be a shame not to include this on any, career related recruitment or like acquisition. I feel like there should be the initiative. If 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 talent is looking for this, I feel like someone in the company should take the lead on advancing, D&I internally, because it's something that is, heavily important. But I would even say that people already working in companies find this important. It's just that in the next couple of years, it has just become such a great topic. But people have always been into diversity and inclusion, So I would say yes to that question. Mandatory if you can. You don't have to do much, to really create a sense of community. But yes, and Shreyas has another comment.
Yeah, no, I actually, yeah, I mean, I personally, in my personal opinion, I think there's like perks to both, but like mandatory training sometimes sounds very like tedious and like monotonous to people. And I would actually say that like if you can ignite the interest of your employees into that DNI training and make it optional, I think that's because I don't personally believe in mandating everything. Um, but yeah, every like demographic, every industry works very differently. So obviously there's no, again, a monolithic answer. And that's my personal opinion again. And I was also thinking the social proof point, and I completely agree with you, Hector, in general, like the social proof is so important. But I feel also like they have to walk the walk while they talk the talk. So sometimes people just put up pictures, but then it's very important to have underlying support structures for like feedback and commitment to D&I to understand how actually employees are engaged and happy. And that was just like my 2 cents. And let's answer the last question. It's 2:45. I'll just quickly try to do it and Hector chime in. Why do you think there's a greater reliance on social media for skills training? Do you think this is due to the inaccessibility slash lack of affordability for many, or because Gen Z don't find traditional careers coaches? Okay, so personally, I think there there is a very ease of access in social media because you can literally sit on your bed, lay down, and like you can just watch a lot of good. And I feel like there are a lot of like very good resources on social media, YouTube especially. There's like people who are like professors. I watch YouTube videos all the time, and I'm like, oh, this is amazing. So I feel like obviously there's the catalog is much more expansive online, and again, it's free. But what I think the point we are trying to make here is that career development should come as an extra, not an extra, but as an additional benefit to when you actually start a job somewhere. Because I want to go to my employer and be like, yeah, I want to learn about this. This will help me develop my career, maybe learn about more data research, Python specific packages. And can you enable that for me? And of course, paid courses are generally much more extensive, and just like you learn slightly more, I believe, because I've done a lot of paid courses myself through Coursera and Skillshare, as Hector said. But again, yeah, I think the point we're trying to make is that employers should have that in their like general package so that people can easily access that level of training and that's quality of training. And anything else from you, Hector, on that?
No, I feel like you cover some great points, and I just want to kind of to quickly summarize some of, what we have um talked about. We talked about um, you know, communication, company culture, and all of these aspects, are just can so easily be showcased on your, company social media or, your um website. It doesn't take much for you to really showcase, the very human aspect of working for a company, and once again, showcase your perks, showcase the benefits, be transparent, be honest. And not only are you saving yourself time, but you're also allowing people to really understand, what really means to you. I'm going to talk about have the importance about social proof and the importance of consistency, showing that social proof, and really take into consideration that um, Gen Z really values, the efforts of, improving. I know that there are some companies that might not have the best track record, but if you put an initiative, it's like we are willing to learn, we're willing to understand, we're willing to hear you out. That's also one aspect that a younger generation and millennials do appreciate. So just don't be afraid of like maybe owning mistakes and fixing them. This is our new trajectory. This is where we're gonna go. It always starts with aspirational goals, and it has to start somewhere. If DNI is not, a key value in your company yet. Um, and I'm gonna go to the very end. So, I mean, that pretty much wraps up our webinar for today. I know that not sure if anyone has any more questions and things like that, or we can, me and Tris can stay here just for a couple of minutes. But I wanted to thank everyone for joining us here in this webinar. If you have any questions or if you wanna talk more in depth about any of the topics that we are here, feel free to send us a message at info@lgbtgrade.com. And, we're here to create a community, within financial services and beyond. So, here to empower people with knowledge. And hopefully this webinar was part of that. And, thank you very much for tuning in. We'll stay here if you have any questions. And then thank you so much for tuning in, guys. Does anyone have any questions? Let me see the chat. Oh, awesome. Well, thank you so much, guys. So we're gonna just wrap up and hope you guys have a good day. Okay, take care.